Welcome back to the It Was Love podcast. I'm your host, James, with my beautiful wife, Sarah.
Hello.
How's it going, babe?
Doing good. Doing good. It's been a busy week.
Too busy.
Yeah.
You doing basketball and we doing work.
Well, basketball just ended for the kids.
Yes.
And
Last game. Action was Friday, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And now we're going straight into track season. So
It don't stop.
it doesn't stop.
Keep the hands busy.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's funny though, because I was thinking about our son. And as parents, sometimes you wonder if your kids are actually listening to
Right.
you. And now that we have teenagers, it's interesting to hear them repeat back stuff that they've heard us say.
Yeah, they think they're funny.
Yeah, because lately your son has been
I'm always telling him
imitating.
to be aware. And so I'll say something always, so you're not aware? And all something like that. Dude's hilarious.
Yeah,
But yeah, they're growing up.
they're growing up, and it's exciting to just see how they're turning into, older thinking humans.
Yeah.
But it's I remember like being a kid and my brother especially like imitating and like making fun of our parents and like doing them and pretending to be them and just thinking it was so funny. And now that like we're on that side where our kids think it's funny to make fun of us,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
The dynamic between y'all and y'all dad and us and our fathers.
That's true.
I remember we were in Atlanta, I think, with your grandfather's funeral, and we shared and your dad was in the room and he was asleep.
This was before we were married.
Yeah.
And so that was your first family trip with us.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't even want to call it a family trip. My grandfather had just passed away,
Right.
which you just said. But you ended up sharing a room with my dad and my brother.
Right. And your dad was like snoring and whatever. And then your brother was just like not having it at all. And I'm like, all right, dad is asleep. I'm going to go to sleep. It is what it is. And Matthew was not having it.
Right.
He threw a shoe. And I'm like, oh, because I feared my father.
Right.
It's like, there's no way in the world I'm throwing anything at him.
Right.
Thinking about throwing nothing at him. He's just like, yeah. Like, oh. Like, what is happening
I know.
here?
The dynamic was just
Oh, Lord.
different. We laugh about it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was your introduction into the family.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny to watch how the kids will, mock us.
Yeah.
Make fun of us.
Yeah, they try their best.
They do. So,
It's funny stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, so I really want to tap into what we're going to be talking about next as far as your experiences, and how you not only dealt with certain things, but, some of your reactions and stuff like that, because there's a lot of things that you endured through our relationship as me thrusting myself into ministry and not so much with the family, And so, and obviously there is a level of what we talked about before, a frustration and a level of disappointments and stuff like that. So I want you to just anyway talk about your experiences and how what you went through shaped, how you were thinking and everything like that. So, but yeah.
Before I talk about that, can I say something?
Sure.
You look really cute.
I look good.
Yeah, I like your hat.
Oh, snap.
You look good, even though it's the Eagles.
You look good too, babe.
Thanks, babe. I like
Even
your
though
outfit.
it's not the Eagles.
I know. I am a Bears fan. Tried and true. Yeah, so you want to know a little bit about just how I was feeling?
Yeah,
Or-
so basically how you were, how did you deal internally with those things and what was going on through your mind and, how, try to express how the enemy tried to work within
Yeah.
you and how in your thinking and your responses and things of that nature.
Yeah, so that's kind of like a heavy and almost kind of like a loaded question, I think, for me, because, when I think back, like how I handled things, if I could go back and handle them differently, I think I would have liked to. Because, um, like in the beginning, I feel like when it was first going on, like I just tried to just think like, okay, my husband's not around a lot, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully eventually one day he'll change his mind about, how he feels about, you know, not being present, not being available or anything like that. And
Right.
so in the beginning, I don't think, I just always felt like, oh, this is just going to be temporary. Because when we were dating, it just felt like things were just so much different, with our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then after we got married, it just seemed like there was just this drastic change. And so I always knew who you were and who I fell in love with. So I always just thought like, okay, this is just a phase, we'll get through it and things like that. But as time went on, like it literally became my reality of like realizing like, wow, my husband is just not available. And I don't know, like I just remember just feeling like really alone and just very isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was definitely praying a lot and asking the Lord, to help me and to change you and to bring us back together. But I do think that there was probably a period of time that I lost hope and just felt like in order for me to survive and become used to the new you, um, I had to like almost trick myself into like feeling like this is just going to be my new reality and I need to live with it. I think that, you know, I knew in my head that because marriage was so serious for the both of us and so serious for me, and I took the vows that I made to you and to the Lord so seriously, I knew divorce wasn't an option. But I thought about it a lot. Like I just kept thinking like, I can't believe this is my life, I can't believe this is what I agreed to, this is not what I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was a girl that dreamed about getting married and dreamed about being a mom from a very young age. Like it was something that I always wanted and I always desired. So in my mind, I had created like this fantasy of what life was going to be like once that happened. And then when it didn't, like I was crushed and I had to go through almost like this mourning period of realizing that what I always thought it was going to be just wasn't.
Why don't you go into you said what you already said an idea of what life would be like.
Mm-hmm.
Go into that realm of what your expectation was, like from growing up and saying this is what my ideal relationship or marriage is, right? So that we can get perspective on what we desire or what we have envisioned, and
Mm-hmm.
then what the realities were.
Yeah. So if I like go far back, um, I just always remember like having almost that Cinderella Prince Charming type of mindset of like one day someone's going to find me, they're going to sweep me off my feet, they're going to just love me and just think that I am just, a princess and, just be in tune with my emotions, be able to read my thoughts and desires. And that was something that I remember saying to someone, wow, Disney really lied to me.
Mm,
Because in my mind, that's what I had envisioned it was going to be like
yeah.
this fantasy of just you find the person that you're going to love and live with for the rest of your life. And it was just going to be this harmony. And I didn't have anybody to tell me, like, no, it's going to be hard. And it takes work. And when you take two separate people and join them together to become one flesh, it can be painful.
Yeah.
And so I had always had this mindset that whoever I married, we were going to just have this inseparable bond. I had the desire to be like just loved on and wooed or and things like that. Like my love language is quality time. And so that was something that was very important to me. It's just having time, because I know that time is something you just can't get back. So for
Right.
me, like, I always just imagined someone that wanted to spend their time with me and us to make really special memories together, and just all the things. I desired to have someone just to kind of love on me and to make me feel special. And so that was just a desire that I had had, ever since I was a little girl. Um, I am a daddy's girl, and so I knew what my standards were in terms of how I wanted to be treated and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just thought that once we got married, that was just going to be how it was, and just that kind of that, wholesome way of life that I just always felt like was going to be something that I was going to have.
Yeah. I think you said, I think it was good when you said about the fantasy life, like
Hmm.
how Disney lied, because I think that is the reality of a lot of women where they take the Cinderella stories and whoever, I don't know the names, but
Hmm.
Rapunzel or whoever, like oh, that this is how it is and this
Hmm.
is what it's going to be, and not taking in consideration, um, well, the films are putting us in a mindset of this is what it would be, and then as we grow up, not taking into consideration like these individuals who I'm in coming in contact with are going to have their own issues and their own problems. They're not going to be the perfect guy that we see on Disney, or even that what is being portrayed in movies and things of that nature. And then we set our lives up, trying to mimic what we see, because those are the imageries of success, or those are the imageries of stability and stuff like that. So
Yeah, for sure. And there's always like this thing of, you know, when I was growing up, it's definitely not this way anymore, but just having that person that comes and kind of just rescues you and just saves you from your despair. And I think because of some of the trauma that I went through when I was younger, I think that even played a role in my brain to say one day someone's going to kind of come and sweep me off my
hmm
feet, and that my life going forward is just magically going to be a lot better than what I experienced, as a child. And yeah, I had just always just felt that way. And so then, once I met you and you were those things to me, you were, the person that would, oh, let me get that for you. And you would, grab whatever I had in my
hmm
hand and walk me to my car. And, I never had to touch, a door handle, because you were just a complete gentleman. You know what I mean? And you always made sure that I was okay, I was feeling okay, that I felt comfortable. You were very, very attentive. And, yeah, I felt safe, with you. And even just giving like your background and just the way that you grew up, and being, someone who grew up in a completely different environment than me, you had a lot of street smarts, and, back in the day, that was something that, I was kind of ashamed of, that I'm just this suburbs girl, probably a little bit naive, definitely don't have any street smarts or anything like that, and then when I met you, there was that immediate like security of like, here's this guy who has these street smarts, you're not afraid of anything. You've been in some very dangerous situations yourself, where your life was at risk. So you had that mentality of not being afraid when we went anywhere, and
right.
so that just more solidified the fact that I'm with this guy who I know is going to protect me and keep me safe.
Yeah.
And so,
Doing handles and on the streets.
yeah,
Run that.
yes. But that's how you were. Like, you weren't afraid of anything. And I mean, I just remember that. Can I tell that story
What story?
about how you showed up at the
Oh
campus?
yeah, sure.
So there was this time that,
Well, first let's preference this. We mind you, she just told you that like I had no fear of anything, which
right, like, you
is
had to, you would tell me stories about how when you were a kid, you had to run home from school to
oh
keep
yeah,
from
Camden,
getting
New Jersey.
pow pow. You know what I mean? Like you had to like run for your life because you were going through gang territory and all kinds of things. I never experienced that. Like
Yeah.
I never experienced having to fear my life getting home from school, or me having to have my, what you say, my head on a swivel to make sure that nobody's running up on me.
Right.
So our backgrounds were different that
Oh
way.
yeah. But yeah, go ahead. Tell your story. I don't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. So I was in college, and I to make a long it's a long story. So I'm in college. I had this professor that literally went missing, was on the news, like nobody could find her. Um, I'm sure if people wanted to go back and look it up, they could. But anyway, she like completely like went missing. Like they thought something happened to her. And so I ended up having to get a new professor for my class. Whole class, the whole year so far, I'm passing the class. And all of a sudden one day she shows back up out the blue and nobody knows where she went, what happened to her. And all of a sudden, I knew she didn't really care for me. Like I knew that, but like I didn't know to what extent she didn't like me. And then
Yeah.
magically my grade dropped drastically to the point where I wasn't going to graduate on time. And I was devastated. And so I called you on the phone and I was crying. And I was like, can you come up here? I need you to come up here. Because I just needed that emotional support at that time because I was so upset. Like we were engaged. We were supposed to get
Right.
married.
But brothers and sisters, she calls me crying, saying, "Can you get here, please? I need you here now." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what happened?" And exactly what I said. What happened?
I said, just get here. I'll
get
tell
here.
you.
So now,
But
there's
wait, no,
hold on. It's
babe.
a problem in my head.
I understand. I understand now.
I was like, "Wait a minute," and I'm with my roommate.
Okay, yes. And so I told you where I was on campus.
Right.
When I say you came whipping around that corner.
Before that, let me tell you what was going through my head. This is tell you what I said. Brothers and sisters, I wasn't all the way there, so bear with me.
Don't say exactly what you said.
All right. So I'm telling my roommate, big ups to my man L. So my roommate, we together at this point. We're like in the same car.
Right.
And you calling me and I'm like, "Yo, what happened?" And I was like, "Well," I'm like, "Yo." So I'm in the car because you don't see this, you don't know this. So I'm in the car, we rolling to the campus, right? So I'm telling my man, like, "Yo, these folks don't know who they dealing with out here. Like,
Right.
they faking." So I'm taking. So he's like, "Oh, okay." Like, "Oh, snap!" Like, we need to calm down a little bit. Like, nah. These folks is wilding, man. They need to know what it is.
Right.
So I roll up on the joint. I get out the car. I'm ready to brawl.
Right, but let me finish.
Go ahead.
You said you taking off your chain.
All
you
that.
taking
I'm
your
like,
hat
"Oh,
off.
hold up. What's going on?"
So when you come around the corner, I remember that like it caused me to like sober up a little bit from my tears because I'm looking at you like, what are you doing? And so you're like, what happened? And I was just like, I gotta retake my class.
And I'm like, "A class?" Like, come on, man.
Oh my God. And the way that you're saying it right now is exactly how your face looks. I was like, what did you think? And you was like, I thought I was going to have to fight somebody. I was like, I didn't say that.
Wow. Hey, listen.
It's a funny story now.
Ladies, don't be vague. Tell them immediately what's going on. Especially if you're crying. Don't be vague.
No.
Say what's going down so we can prepare mentally, emotionally, physically, all of that.
No, because it's just you and your background.
That's
and you
men. That's men in general.
It's you going to the extreme.
If you coming to your aid, to your woman's aid, what's going down?
It's to your extreme, like, because you used to that street life, and my brain would have never even went there, but your brain did. Anyway, I didn't know that your mind was going to go there, babe. I really didn't. So,
Had me
but
worked up.
those were the type of things that, you know.
Right. So from that type of guy,
Right.
then
Did you want me to talk about how you had people follow me on the campus?
oh, following you. Okay, go ahead. I
You
first of all, I was bouncer, and the guys I bounced with, I got became cool with,
right, but like it
and they all went to the school. They went to the college. Go ahead, tell your story.
all I'm saying is one day it clicked that
Well,
cuz
first,
you didn't really let me know who you knew.
right,
Like everything was always like top secret.
G14 classified
And
information.
then like there was some places like you were like, no, I'm not taking you there, just because of things that happened.
Right,
Like you were followed before, you've been, you know, people
shot at.
tried to unalive you, you
Yeah,
know, things like that. And so one day, I guess we're doing a lot of story times.
go ahead. Let's
Okay.
talk. Let's tell the story.
So one day, I remember we had like the campus bus,
Mm-hmm.
and I was waiting for the bus. And there's a group of guys. I would see them, you know, around campus or whatever. And I remember hearing you say different names. Now, again, I wasn't a partier or anything like that.
Right.
So, like, I didn't hang out with, you know, the party people or anything like that. But I do remember one day I'm trying to get on the bus, and this guy bumped into me. I didn't think anything of it, you know. He kind of just bumped into me, whatever. And then all of a sudden, three dudes jumped up. Hey, 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 whoa, you see her? And they like made him apologize to me. Like they were just all like, you don't bump into her.
As they should
And
have.
so then when I get on the bus, I'm sitting there like, that's so weird. Like I've never talked to these guys before. Why did they respond that way? And then it like clicked immediately. I was like, I bet you they know James. And sure enough, they
Those
were
my guys.
your bouncing brothers.
Yes, indeed.
So those were the type of experiences that I would have,
Right.
you know, and I did appreciate the fact that, you know, you made me feel protected and secure, you
Right.
know, and so I think we've gotten way off track. But anyway, to get back to the point, you know, that was the things that I was used to
Right.
from when we were dating.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, after we got married, that quickly changed. Like it shifted big time. Like your focus had really gone, you know, to the ministry. And so, yeah, I was sad. I was sad because I was just like, wow, like we got married and he just doesn't seem that into me anymore. He just doesn't want to, it doesn't feel like that he cares, you know, because there would be times where I would try to like plan dates or, you know, outings. And like I remember one time in particular, like I really wanted you to be my dinner date for an event. And like you chose work over coming with me, and I was like devastated, you know, because I'm like I'm married. You want to have an arm to hold on to, you know, as a woman, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember just feeling like just really sad, you know, about the whole situation.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately that went on for a lot of
A
years,
lot of
well over
years.
a decade.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. So the drastic change from dating life, then coming to married life, but we, you know, coming into the ministry now. My focus is ministry,
Mhm.
and my focus is not on establishing us. My focus isn't on making sure that we are good.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so, how did that affect? Because you see people uh, praising my deeds, and it's just like the value that I have in the ministry,
Mhm.
and then it's just like not being able to see that yourself when it comes to home
Yeah.
life.
Well, I remember feeling like a great sense of jealousy and just feeling like, you know, that people on the outside got to experience you in a way that I was like looking to like get that back.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I realized that I literally began to probably idolize you. I don't even want to say probably, I began to idolize you because it was like all my focus all the time was on you. And I wasn't really going to the Lord in prayer the way that I should have been and really asking the Lord to help me through this, because I feel like had I had been in a better state to do that, it wouldn't have hurt so bad. I'm not saying that the hurt would have been completely gone, but I wouldn't have allowed it to like literally take over my mind, because when you are going through that, especially as a woman, and your husband is no longer giving you their time or their attention or, anything like that leaves room for the enemy to start saying
Right.
things. So I was thinking like, well, maybe you're not attracted to me anymore. Maybe he regrets being married. Maybe it's not what he thought it was going to be. Maybe I'm not performing well enough, even in the bedroom. Like, it was just any thought that you can think of, I was experiencing. And it almost felt like I was competing with, like, I remember like just feeling like I was just constantly just competing for your time and your affection.
Yeah.
And it was like the more I asked for it, the more I felt like you resented it. And the more that I like was like kind of complaining and, arguing about it, it felt like the more distance was between us. And yeah, I just remember just, really going through it and just feeling like, man, I'm stuck. I talked about how, I dealt with a lot of depression. And, I don't think that the depression that I was going through was solely just because of our marriage. I think a lot of it had to do with just life circumstances, me losing my mom at 16 years old, and not having the best relationship with her, always feeling that sense of like rejection, even from as a little girl. I feel like it was almost like carrying over into my marriage, because essentially you were rejecting me. And I don't think I knew how to articulate that or to even communicate that. And
Yeah.
so it would come out in various ways. And when those that were close to us at the time would kind of see it, it was like they didn't understand. Like, because in their mind, they see you as this charismatic, funny, lively person. When you would get, lively, your New Jersey accent would come out and you'd have these words that, people from New Jersey would normally say and understand, and you had your own language. And so you were just this guy that people tend to draw to. And I just remember feeling like you don't really know him the way that I know him,
Right.
and yeah, I don't think that, it was like just one particular thing. And I don't think there was just even like this, oh, and I don't want to say that because I don't want to just say like, oh, all I had to do was pray and it got better, because I prayed for a long time and it got worse.
Right. And that's a good point. Um, Praying, you know, for your situation. Obviously, we should talk to the Father and go to Him. Um, but when it comes to a point where your prayers seem unanswered because the other person, maybe I'm rejecting. Actually, no, maybe I was rejecting the Holy Spirit, because when you come to me and say, "Oh, I want to do this," or "Hey, let's go here," or "Let's do this," or "Let's go here on our anniversary," or whatever, and it's just like my mind automatically went to who's going to do this, as far as in the ministry,
Like the work that
the
needed to be
work
done.
that needed to be done, and so. And then on top of that, my mind, it's 100% demonic, right? So my thoughts were not righteous thoughts, because it was like I'm seeing your request as like, what? Like, you don't see what need to be done here in the ministry type.
Yeah.
And that was a demonic thought, right? Because the enemy wanted my eyes, or in my mind and my thoughts and my imaginations, to be solely on the ministry. And so I think it was, well, I know it was damaging when you say that, oh, I'm praying and I don't see any change. And um yeah, that's obviously the work of the enemy, because I was rejecting, like we read in the was it First Timothy 5:8, where it's, if anyone doesn't provide for his family, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, he's worse than an unbeliever.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, man, I'm doing all of this, and I'm in the eyes of the Lord, I'm doing all of this in the ministry, and you need me, and in the eyes of the Lord, I was worse than a unbeliever.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you were praying and asking the Lord and seeking the Lord, what was, and because you didn't see any change or
Mm-hmm.
immediate change, because that's what we are taught.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you pray and you believe and you have faith and this is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And so how, because you said you had to cope and you had to um train yourself to be a certain way. What are some realms in which you had to deny yourself of your desires?
Yeah.
So for like you said, like I wasn't even excited about, oh yeah, let's go out and let's
Yeah.
do this. What are some ways where you were able to or had to switch
Yeah.
in order to deal?
Yeah. That's a really good question. It was definitely not something that um when I look at it now, I do take it as a blessing from the Lord. But something that definitely helped me during that time was our children.
Mm.
When we had our babies, they were the ones that had me to keep going and to not give up. Um, and I began to like engulf myself with the children and with the kids
Mm-hmm.
and making moments with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to just be the three of us. Like, I would spend my time because, when you have little babies, little kids, they're excited to see you. They want to be around you. Um, our daughter was what we called my hit baby. Like she
Yeah.
wanted to be, with me all the time.
Yeah.
And so that was something that allowed me to kind of keep going. Was that the healthiest way to go about it? Probably not. But it was at that time, that was what allowed me to get up and keep going and not to give up because I knew that they were depending on me. I think I tried to shield them a lot from what was going on with us.
Mm-hmm.
The home that I grew up in, there was a lot of fighting and a lot of yelling. And I vowed to not allow that to be what our children would experience. And so I found myself just trying to shield what we were going through from them. And just still trying to keep this whole reality of what I thought in my mind was what, life was going to be like.
Right.
One of the other things that I know that I did, is, I got sucked into that whole ritual type mentality. What it's what I consider it now. I just kept feeling like, well, if I keep going to church and, maybe if I fast or if I read a confession, or if I write out a prayer for my husband, that one day magically you were just going to be this different person.
Yeah.
And just to kind of go back, like, I began to idolize you and just kind of like have these fantasies of what can I do to get my husband to recognize me and to want to be around me. And it consumed me. It literally consumed me. And it wasn't until years and years and years later that it was like the Lord had revealed to me, like, when are you going to do that for me? When are you going to take your attention off of your husband and allow me to be what you desire for him to
Mm.
be? And that took me a very long time. It took me a very long time to like get to that point where I was just like, okay, God, all right,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and unfortunately, you know, it had got to a point for me that like I think I had become to resent you so much that like I stopped caring. And to the point where like when you begin to change, I didn't even notice because I feel like I had like disconnected myself
Mm-hmm.
to the point, and that was my way of coping to not hurt and not to feel the pain. And so I felt like, okay, if I disconnect myself from him and no longer allow what he's doing or what he has going on to even be a thought in my mind, like it got to the point where like I didn't know what you were doing in the ministry. You were working all the time, but I had no clue like what you were doing. I didn't have any clue with what your meetings were about, what your phone calls were about. Like I knew nothing. And I had like completely like separated myself from
Yeah.
you. And it was the Lord that had to change my heart and allow me to start loving you again
Yeah.
because I had completely grown cold to you, you know, and I had completely like got to a point where I didn't even really want to be around you because, you know, I was in so much pain and I was
Yeah.
hurting so bad. And there were some real things that had happened, you know, that I had really begun to resent you. And the Lord had to take me through a part where, you know, I had to heal.
Yeah.
You know, one of the biggest, I think, moments in our life where I remember like needing you, like really, really needing you, and you weren't there is when we had got pregnant
Mm.
after our daughter.
Yes.
And I'm going to try not to get emotional telling this story, but we had got pregnant again after our daughter. And because our very first pregnancy resulted in loss, this was
Yes.
before our son.
Yes.
Anytime I had gotten pregnant, we never said anything to anybody until we knew that I was far enough along that the pregnancy was safe.
Right.
And I remember I was going for my 10-week appointment and I was supposed to be able to hear the baby's heartbeat for the
Mm-hmm.
first time. And I remember you saying, "Hey, do you want me to come with you?" And I was like, "No, you know, I'll just go." At the time, you didn't have a lot of days to take off or things like that. And so we were trying to save your days so that at the end of the pregnancy, you'd be able to take time off and things like that. And I ended up having to go to the hospital and they could not find a heartbeat. And in that moment, you know, I was scared, and they ended up, because of the way the doctor's office was, they were able to send me right over to the urgent, like the hospital, whatever, to get an ultrasound.
Right.
Long story short, there was no heartbeat. And I was devastated because something that we had always talked about is having a big family
Mm-hmm.
and having a lot of children. And I just remember just being so sad.
Yeah.
I remember just praying and asking the Lord to have me so that I didn't have to go through the procedure of, you know, removing the baby.
Right.
And, you know, just feeling like I just want to hurry up and get this over with.
Right.
And I'll never forget, and I know you've already told me it's okay that I share this
Yeah.
story, but I'll never forget, it was a Sunday morning when I was actually having the miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going into the bathroom and sitting in our tub, just trying to help alleviate some of the pain. And you got up that morning and you said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "It's happening." And you didn't say anything else. You ended up getting dressed. You came into the bathroom and you said, "Okay, well, I'm going to go to church. And I was there by myself, having to go through that by myself.
Yeah.
And that was one of those moments where like I needed you there with me. Like
Yeah.
I needed you to be there with me. And you chose ministry. And um, I remember our daughter came into the room. I think she was probably about 2 at
Mm-hmm.
the time, after everything, because it took a couple of hours, obviously. And then, it takes some weeks before you actually heal. And I remember our daughter coming into the room and I was crying. And she hugged me and she said, "It's okay, mommy. Don't cry. It's okay." And I remember just holding her. And I just remember being so mad at you because you left me. And um, like a normal Sunday, I cleaned myself off and got me and the kids dressed. And I went to service. And I sat in the back by myself with the kids. And I watched you lead praise and worship like nothing had happened.
Yeah.
And I just remember crying. And nobody knew. Like, nobody knew what had
Right.
just happened. And I remember just thinking, like, man, like, he didn't even stay with me. And so that was one of those moments where, like, I resented you for a long time. And it was hard. And I just couldn't understand, like, I just didn't understand, like, why.
Right.
Until later, obviously, we had talked about, your mindset and just where you were at the time. And so I had to like literally like forgive you. Like I had to forgive you,
Yeah.
and that was something that I had struggled with for such a long time, and something that just, people would wonder why, like, what's wrong with her? Like, why does she treat him that way? And why is she rolling her eyes at him? And it was just like, because you had become like this different person that, where like I just felt like, in the beginning, that was something you would have never left me to handle
Right.
by myself.
Right.
And, again, that was one of those things like, oh, I'm just sacrificing for the work of the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that happened. And like I said, it took me a really, really long time to forgive you. And yeah, I mean, after a while, you know, your heart began to change. And like I said, my mind was such in a place where I was so done that like it was like I don't care what you do. Like I'm going to live my life, you live your life. I'm going to focus on me and the kids and you just do whatever you want.
Yeah. That is the realities of when you are in when, or I shall speak for myself, when I am in a trance like zombie type of motions, right? Ritual type motions, right? So it's like you can't see. Jesus said, blessed are their eyes for they see, blessed are the ears for they hear." I wasn't able to see to the point where I needed to be there for you. That moment, what flooded my brain was, you got to be at the church. It's Sunday morning. You got to be there. And then, obviously, it's 100% demonic. All of those thoughts, all of those things were demonic because it was like a trance.
Yeah.
It was like a trance
It's like
having
you didn't
to,
even realize your reality of what was happening.
right. And my responsibility in it. My responsibility as your husband to be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart went to, oh, if I'm not there, then if I'm not at the church, then everything is going to go wrong. And to remind folks with the mentality, I really truly hold to the doctrine of if you take care of God's house, he'll take care of yours. I live that. Like I live that, oh, let me thrust myself in the sanctuary. Let me continue to do all that I can do for the glory of God and for his kingdom and for the ministry. And I'm thinking like, oh, God is going to work this out. All I got to do is get to the building. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is the damage that has happened in our relationship. That was the damage that happens in a lot of relationships
Absolutely.
because we thrust ourselves, or rather, should I say, we are trained to thrust ourselves. We are taught to thrust ourselves into the building. Go to
Mm-hmm.
the building, go to the building. And where I should have been is at home with you, comforting you, walking you, standing with you, and as you walk through
Yeah.
this whole process. And I think that obviously that was a big deal for you to be able to be like,
Yeah, but I think that, I know that story is extreme, but I think that there's a lot of men who just don't know how to handle some of those emotional, life-changing
mm-hmm,
experiences. And for you, I think in your brain, you were just like you said, if I get to church, everything's going to be okay and
right,
things are just going to get better. Not
right,
realizing that in that moment, I just needed you to just be there with me. You
right,
didn't have to say a word, you just needed to be there with me. But what's awesome about that is how, even through that experience, God allowed me to see how, when He tells us that He will never leave us
mm,
and that He will never forsake us,
yeah,
we have to hold on to that because men are going to fail us. In that moment, you had failed me.
yes,
In that very moment, I needed you and you weren't there for me.
yes,
But that's why we need Jesus. You know what I mean? And so in that moment, I know that, that the Lord was with me
mm-hmm,
because that was intense.
yes,
And to know that, even that our baby, I love to think about how our baby, both of the babies that we lost, are with our Heavenly Father, but God is a redeemer,
yes,
and he has truly restored us.
yes,
The enemy wanted to destroy our marriage. He did not want us to come together.
mm,
He did not want us. It was like everything that should have caused us to divorce happened.
right,
We had two miscarriages. One I had to, go through by myself. We've been evicted from an apartment.
mm-hmm,
We've lost jobs.
yep,
We've lost money where, we've been scammed. Like everything that you can think of that would want to just destroy us and cause us to hate one another has happened.
yeah,
And it is by God's grace that not only has He restored our marriage, but He has just elevated us into a place where we're fully in love, and God has restored us. I'm super grateful for what He's done. I do want to encourage, women who might be going through a situation where, you're devastated because you needed your husband to be there for you and he wasn't, or there's a moment where, you feel like you aren't the priority, and that whatever is taking his time and attention away from you guys being able to come together, it's so important that you rely on the Holy Spirit,
yeah,
because the enemy will whisper in your ear and tell you all these things. He will, anything that you can think of, he will try to tell you, whether
mm-hmm,
it's to leave your husband or find someone who you can talk to, or, there's somebody else out there that can treat you better, or whatever it is. This is a time where you have to rely on the Lord and allow yourself to be sad, allow yourself to be angry, but don't stay there. allow yourself to go through those emotions, and don't allow anyone to tell you that, you just need to get over it. It's a process. It
Yeah.
took us a long time.
Absolutely.
And talk to people who care about marriage. I made sure of that. Like, that was important to me. Like, I didn't surround myself with people who was like, oh, just leave them, or oh, just, do something different. If I did share anything, or if I did even talk about it, it was always going to be with someone who wanted to see us work and didn't want to see us, separated.
Right.
I think it's important that when you get counsel, that you get wise counsel.
Yes.
It's important to talk to, married people that I could say are seasoned, that have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of years behind their belt, and
Yeah.
not someone who's, single and angry and upset because their marriage didn't work out or
Right.
their relationship didn't work out, and pray that the Lord will allow you to forgive him,
Mm.
to forgive yourself, to forgive, and to keep your heart open, because one of the things that I had to learn how to do again is to allow you to come close.
Yeah.
You know, um, I thought that, oh, he's just doing this because he feels bad, or he didn't do this before, so why I'm not going to open myself up for to be
Mm.
hurt again.
Yeah.
And even that's a trick of the enemy,
Yeah.
to keep you guarded and to keep you at a place where, you know, it's too late now. It's been too long, and I'm not going to accept, you know, his gesture of kindness or love because he should have done it, 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The fact that, you were making an effort, I had to open up my heart and realize, like, oh, he really is changing.
Right. And so that very thing, that rejection that you were experiencing from me, you were doing to me while I'm pursuing to do things right,
Yes.
you know, and which even goes back to in the beginning when you were talking about all the rejection you have felt
Mm-hmm.
in your younger years when you were young and things of that nature. And then it's just more of like saying to yourself, oh, I'm not going to allow this to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like, oh, we're married, but I'm not going to be vulnerable again.
Yes.
And I'm not going to
Be
uh,
hurt
be
again.
right.
I'm never going to allow my heart to feel that way again. I'm not going to do anything nice for him anymore. He could do it on his own. I'm not going to help him. All of those things the enemy will tell you to do to keep yourself from feeling hurt and
Right.
keep yourself from feeling vulnerable.
Right.
And had my mindset even had been at a different place, which I wish it would have been, I would have loved to have been in a position that even though all that had happened, that my stance and my vows and the way that I treated you didn't change. I wish that's how I had responded, but I didn't. I was
Right.
mad. I was angry. I was resentful, and I didn't want to have anything, to do with you, or
Mm-hmm.
in any of your gestures. And I remember there being moments where I'd be like, why is he doing this? Like, what's up? Because, and I would be like, why are you saying something nice to me or something like that?
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, like, it's because I love you, and yeah, it was one of those things. And I think it's important that that people say that they're sorry and apologize, and that we open up our hearts for forgiveness,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, we've done Christ worse. And in order for him to forgive us, we have to forgive those that are around us,
Yeah.
no matter how bad they've hurt us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the scripture.
And I also, let me just say this too, because, you know, I'm grateful for our testimony and I'm grateful for what the Lord has done. But to those that are still in their situations and
Mm-hmm.
are still hurting really bad and are still getting their feelings hurt every day, and you making kind gestures and they're not being well received,
Yeah.
and you feeling like your spouse doesn't understand you, or you feel like they don't know you, or you feel like you're alone, or you're isolated, or you're misunderstood, I just want to encourage you and let you know that that's not the Lord's intention for
Yeah.
your relationship or for your marriage. And I don't have like just the formula or to say, oh, if you do this, your marriage is just automatically going to change. I don't know. Only the Lord knows.
Yes.
But what I do know is that if you position yourself in a place to really allow the Lord to minister to you, to allow your heart to heal, and to allow yourself to give your spouse, even if they never apologize and even if they never change who they are, that the love of Christ can shine through your life,
Yes.
then that means you win. I'm not condoning anyone to be in a situation of abuse or
Right.
harm. If that's happening, you need to get out. But allow yourself to allow the Lord to minister to you and grow closer to Him and allow Him to be your everything. Because in those situations, you can feel like you're losing your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's good.